Have you ever noticed how some people are almost never on time? Not just occasionally late, but consistently, quietly slipping behind the clock. Maybe you've experienced it yourself, or perhaps you've felt the subtle irritation of waiting for someone who seems unable to honor the minutes. But if we look beyond the surface, we may begin to see that this behavior is rarely about laziness, carelessness, or disrespect. Beneath habitual lateness lies a web of emotions, motivations, and unspoken patterns that reveal something deeper about the human experience. Being late isn't always about poor planning. For many, it is a reflection of inner tension, a tug-of-war between freedom and obligation, desire and fear. People who are always late may not even fully understand their own behavior. And yet, if we pause and reflect, the reasons often emerge from subtle, emotional layers that quietly shape their lives. Sometimes, lateness begins in childhood. A child who felt unseen or overlooked may have learned early that the world doesn't wait for them, that arriving on time doesn't guarantee attention or care. In response, a quiet rebellion may form a pattern of asserting their presence on their own terms. It's not born out of defiance for the sake of it, it's a protective instinct. Being late becomes a small, private way to reclaim control over a world that often feels rigid and unforgiving. For some, lateness is tied to a desire for autonomy, for space to breathe. Time becomes a personal territory, a flexible zone where they can slow down, linger, and exist outside of others' expectations. They may savor moments, allowing themselves the pleasure of a slow cup of coffee, a lingering glance at the sky, or a small act of quiet rebellion against the relentless pace of life. To an observer, this might seem inconsiderate, but for them, it's essential a way to nurture their inner life in a world that often demands constant motion. Yet, beneath this autonomy lies another layer: anxiety. People who are habitually late often carry an undercurrent of nervous energy, a quiet tension that they rarely admit. There may be fear of judgment or a lingering sense of inadequacy. Arriving late becomes both a shield and a subtle message. I am here, even if the world isn't ready for me. Each delayed step is a negotiation between wanting to belong and wanting to protect oneself from feelings of insufficiency. There's also an interesting interplay with perception. People who are consistently late often experience time differently. They may underestimate how long things will take or overestimate their own capacity to navigate schedules. Moments stretch and bend in their minds, not out of carelessness, but because their internal clock follows a different rhythm. This isn't inherently negative, it's simply a reminder that human experience is not uniform. We all move through life with our own subtle tempos, our own inner pulses. Relationships, of course, are affected. Waiting for someone who is perpetually late can stir frustration, disappointment, or resentment. But for the person arriving late, there is often a quiet vulnerability. They may feel guilt for causing inconvenience, but still struggle to align their inner patterns with external expectations. Each missed appointment carries weight, an invisible dialogue between who they want to be and who they feel capable of being in the moment. Habitual lateness can also be linked to perfectionism. Paradoxically, some people delay arrival because they feel unprepared, as if everything must be just right before they can face the world. There's a quiet internal pressure, the fear of showing up imperfect or incomplete. So they linger, fine-tuning, adjusting, waiting for an imagined moment of readiness that never truly arrives. We can also see patterns of avoidance in lateness. For some, arriving late is an unconscious form of emotional self-protection. Facing certain social situations, difficult conversations, or the weight of expectations can feel overwhelming. Being late becomes a buffer, a gentle way to postpone confrontation, to create space before stepping into a moment that might feel exposing or demanding. Interestingly, people who are always late often show remarkable sensitivity. They are attuned to subtle details, internal landscapes, and emotional currents that others may overlook. Their lateness may reflect a mind that is deeply engaged with thought, observation, or reflection. To them, the world is complex and layered, and strict adherence to the clock feels almost unnatural against the richness of inner experience. Consider for a moment the habitual latecomer in everyday life. They may rush into a meeting flustered and apologetic, while inside, they are replaying countless mental steps. Did I forget something? Did I prepare enough? Did I honor everyone's expectations? The outward chaos masks an inner intensity, a constant negotiation between their internal world and the external demands of society. This behavior invites us to practice empathy. When someone arrives late, we are given a choice to react with irritation or to pause to consider the hidden currents beneath the surface. Behind the visible moment of lateness lies a story of coping, adjustment, and human complexity. It is rarely simple, rarely fully conscious, yet profoundly human. The psychology of lateness also speaks to the broader tension between inner life and external demands. In a world dominated by schedules, deadlines, and structured time, the internal clock of some individuals moves differently. It is fluid, expansive, and sometimes resistant to the rigid frameworks imposed by others. Recognizing this invites patience not only toward others but toward ourselves. Perhaps habitual lateness is less a flaw and more a gentle reminder that time is subjective, that life is experienced in rhythms that cannot always be measured by minutes and hours alone. In some ways, habitual lateness can be a subtle form of self-expression. It is a negotiation between presence and absence, between participation and withdrawal. Each delayed moment carries a quiet reflection of the person's inner world, their desires, fears, and unspoken needs. It is a dance, often invisible, between the self and society, between who they are and who they feel compelled to be. So, the next time someone arrives late or you catch yourself running behind, pause for a moment. Consider the hidden layers beneath the behavior. Every delayed minute holds a story. Every small lapse in time reflects a negotiation of the human heart. In that understanding, we can cultivate compassion, awareness, and patience both toward others and ourselves. Because in the end, being late is rarely about the clock. It is about the quiet, intricate rhythms of the human mind and heart. It is about the tension between autonomy and expectation, anxiety and courage, reflection and action. And perhaps, if we pay attention, it teaches us to slow down, to notice, and to honor the subtle pulses of life that exist beyond the strict tick of the clock. Habitual lateness invites us to ask, how do we measure our value? By the minutes we arrive on time, or by the depth of our presence when we do arrive? How can we move through the world with more grace for ourselves and more understanding for the unseen struggles of others? Time is, after all, a human construct designed to organize life, yet it cannot contain the fullness of our inner experience. And maybe, just maybe, habitual lateness is a quiet reminder of this truth, that human beings are not clocks. We are rhythms, moods, emotions, and reflections, each moving at their own pace, each deserving patience, empathy, and understanding. So, the next time you notice someone arriving late, or you find yourself slipping behind the minutes, take a breath. Step into a reflective awareness. Honor the hidden depths beneath the surface. Because every moment, whether early, on time, or late, carries the profound, complex truth of what it means to be human. And in that awareness, perhaps we can all find a little more compassion for the clock, for others, and for ourselves.